Hey friends, and welcome back to the NeuroSpicy Mom Pod. I'm your host, Austin Marie, mom, creator, former teacher, and your personal translator for all things neurodivergent in a world that just doesn't get it. Today, we're diving into something that seems small, but is actually huge for so many of us in the neurodivergent community: sensory struggles and masking. If you've ever unraveled in a loud store, needed 5 hours to recover from a haircut, or watched your child melt down in public while everyone around you judge, this episode is for you. We're talking about what's really happening in the brain when sensory overwhelm hits, why behavior isn't the problem, it's the signal, how we can support both our kids and ourselves with empathy, science, and actual tools, and why so many everyday spaces, from salons to classrooms, are absolutely not built for neurodivergent nervous systems. Whether you're a parent, a teacher, a neurodivergent adult, or just neuro-curious, grab your favorite drink, get cozy, and let's get into it. Let me take you to a moment that will probably feel familiar to a lot of you. A while ago, I took my youngest to get a haircut, just a trim. No big deal, right? Except it was a very big deal. From the second we walked in, the overwhelm started stacking. The buzz of the clippers, the hum of the overhead lights, the strong smells, the expectation to sit still, the stranger with scissors, small talk. It was too much, too fast. And from the outside, my kid, who's usually sweet and silly, looked calm, masking with every ounce of energy he had, sitting still, trying to do everything right, trying to be good, because that's what the adults around him expected. But I could see it, the subtle flinches, the wide, unblinking eyes, the stiffness in his body. He was doing his absolute best not to fall apart, and it was heartbreaking. Meanwhile, the stylist just kept saying things like, "Come on now, sit still. You need to listen, you're fine." But my child wasn't fine, and I was the only one who could see that he was suffering. It felt like I was watching my kid tolerate a form of quiet torture, and I couldn't stop it, because I also didn't want to make it worse by intervening too harshly. That's the thing about masking. Sometimes it looks like everything's okay, and no one realizes how hard you're working to survive the moment. It wasn't about the haircut. It was about the sensory overload, plus a complete loss of autonomy. Okay, let's actually pause and talk about the science for a second. Because this isn't just about parenting or behavior. It's about how our brains and bodies are wired. And learning the right words gives us the power to understand, advocate, and connect. And here's something I want to say right up front, and you'll hear me say it again and again throughout this podcast. All behavior is communication. When we can understand what the body and the brain are trying to say, we can show up with compassion instead of control. So here are a few key terms to know, the MVPs of this conversation about dysregulation and sensory overload. When a neurodivergent nervous system enters an overstimulating environment, it goes into survival mode. And just so we're clear, an overstimulating environment can be anything that bombards the senses too intensely or for too long. Think bright fluorescent lights, loud or unpredictable noises, strong smells like perfume or cleaning products, scratchy clothing, crowded spaces, unexpected touching, or even too many people talking at once. For some, even temperature changes or background music can tip things into overwhelm. Here's a way to visualize it. Neurotypical focus is often compared to a flashlight. It can zero in on exactly what's relevant and filter out the rest. But for many neurodivergent people, focus is more like a floodlight. We take in everything, all the sounds, all the smells, all the lights, all the textures, all the feelings, all at once. We're expected to sort through all that input while staying calm and well-behaved. It's like trying to write an essay at a rock concert under a strobe light while someone's spraying Febreze in your face and being told, relax and just focus. What's overstimulating for one person might feel totally fine to someone else, and that's why it's often so misunderstood. My own kids are always so confused when I tell them I'm getting overwhelmed from too much noise, especially if they're both talking to me at the same time or playing loudly right next to me. They'll be like, but Mama, you listen to music so loud in the car. And it's true, I blast music in the car because that's input I can control. That rhythm actually soothes my nervous system, but unpredictable noise, competing sounds, demands on my attention from multiple directions, that kind of input feels like chaos to my brain. And that's what makes sensory overwhelm so complicated. It's not about the volume necessarily. It's about the context, the control, and the timing. What's overstimulating for one person might feel totally fine to someone else. And let's talk about what's actually going on in the brain. The brain starts scanning for danger, even if no one else sees it. The amygdala, the brain's fear center, goes into high alert. The prefrontal cortex, which is the logical decision-making part of the brain, basically goes offline. The body floods with stress hormones, ready to fight, flee, or freeze. That's why calm down doesn't work. The part of the brain that could respond to logic is literally unavailable. This is also why it's important not to try to talk to your child out of being dysregulated in the moment, something I'm still personally trying to practice myself. When a child is melting down, they're not in a place to hear reason or respond to pep talks. They're in survival mode. Instead of explaining or correcting, we can look for clues in their behavior to figure out what part of the brain they're operating from. If they're saying mean things to you or lashing out with their words like, I hate you, they're likely operating from their limbic brain. That's the emotional center. If they're being physically aggressive, hitting or flailing, they're probably gone completely offline from their prefrontal cortex, and their body is simply trying to protect itself. Understanding these brain states can help us meet them with safety and co-regulation, not shame and fear. This isn't dramatic and it's not bad behavior. It's a nervous system doing exactly what it's supposed to do when it feels unsafe. And it doesn't just happen to kids. It happens to us adults too. Teachers, parents, anyone trying to exist in spaces that are not built for us. Let's talk about masking. Masking is when a neurodivergent person hides or suppresses their natural reactions in order to seem normal or avoid negative outcomes. It's a survival strategy, one that often starts in early childhood. Now, some neurotypical folks might say, well, everyone masks sometimes. You act differently at work than you do at home. And yes, we all adjust our behavior to some degree depending on the situation. But for neurodivergent people, masking isn't just about context. It's about survival. It's about constantly suppressing your natural instincts, stems, and reactions to avoid punishment, ridicule, or exclusion. It's the difference between choosing to code switch and feeling like you have to erase yourself to be safe. And it's especially common in girls and assigned female at birth individuals, often socially conditioned from a young age to be polite, quiet, agreeable, to keep others comfortable at the expense of our own needs and authenticity. Because of that, they tend to mask more efficiently and more often, which leads to being overlooked or misdiagnosed entirely during childhood. Instead of receiving support, they're praised for being well-behaved, even while silently struggling inside. Masking is one of the biggest reasons so many women and femme-presenting folks are just now often in adulthood, realizing they've been neurodivergent all along. It might look like sitting still when you want to stim, smiling when you're deeply uncomfortable, nodding along in a conversation that's draining you, or in kids, holding it together all day at school only to fall apart immediately when they get home. They look like they're doing just fine until they're not. And then people are shocked by the meltdown that's been brewing under the surface all day. Masking takes energy, and over time, it leads to exhaustion, anxiety, burnout, and disconnection from who we really are. Whether it's your child melting down in their car seat or you crying in the shower after a social event, this is not weakness. It's what happens when we push past their limits over and over. The truth is, most environments are not made with neurodivergent people in mind. Schools, stores, salons, waiting rooms, restaurants, they're loud, they're chaotic, unpredictable. There's pressure to conform, to be quiet, to keep up. And when someone struggles, society doesn't ask, what supports do they need? It asks, what's wrong with them? We're still telling neurodivergent people to act right in a world that refuses to meet our needs. That's not discipline, it's denial. We're gaslighting children and adults by expecting compliance in exchange for basic belonging. And for so many of us, the fear of not being in control or being punished for speaking up runs deep. I still remember wetting my pants in first grade because I was too afraid to ask to use the bathroom. I couldn't bear the thought of being told no. That moment stayed with me, not just the shame, but the realization that my body's needs weren't safe to trust in that space. Our society actively teaches us to betray our own bodies and nervous systems, and it starts immediately after birth. After just 6 to 8 weeks, many mothers are forced to leave their newborns in the care of others. If they're lucky, a trusted family member, but more often a stranger, just to return to work and earn money to survive. They're expected to prioritize labor for someone else's bottom line over the biological needs of their infant. The baby still needs her immensely, but capitalism doesn't care. Then, as soon as those same children enter school, we continue the betrayal. We tell them to hold their pee until a bell rings. They can't eat when they're hungry or drink water when they're thirsty unless it's the right time. We teach them their body cues are inconvenient, disruptive, or wrong. It's not just about behavior. It's about teaching children, especially neurodivergent children, that their needs don't matter. Here's the good news. We can do better. Whether you're parenting a neurodivergent kid or you're the neurodivergent one in your family, you deserve tools, not shame. Here's what helps. Offer choices and autonomy. From haircuts to meals, give space for no. And teach your kids that no is a complete sentence. We need to make it explicit. They don't have to justify or explain their discomfort to be allowed to honor it. Feeling uncomfortable is reason enough to say no. Teaching this early helps build a strong sense of trust and body autonomy. Prep before transitions. Scripts, visuals, and what to expect combos work wonders. For example, when my youngest is having a hard time with people invading personal space, we practice saying things like, "No, thank you. Can you give me space, please?" And when we're going somewhere new and he wants to make friends, we rehearse these simple scripts like, "Hi, my name is," "What's your name?" These little moments of preparation help build confidence and give them tools to navigate the world with more ease. Use sensory supports. Headphones, sunglasses, STEM toys, weighted items, all valid. I love that these are becoming more normalized, and I tell my kids all the time, everyone uses what they need. These tools are just as important as someone who needs glasses to see. We all support our bodies in different ways, and that's not just okay, it's essential. Respect regulation windows. Don't force logic in survival mode. Help first, talk later. And above all, connection first and always. Our job isn't to control the moment, it's to protect the relationship. We always want to maintain our connection with our kids, even in moments of dysregulation. Model what you want them to learn. Narrate your own regulation process. I'm feeling overwhelmed, so I'm going to step outside for fresh air. I'll be back in a minute. And most importantly, you don't have to change who you are to be safe, supported, or celebrated. This is true for our kids, and it's true for us. Before we wrap up, I want to give a special shout out to a local small business gem, Moni Hosier, a fabulous realtor with Parkway Real Estate Company. Moni is truly passionate about helping people plant their roots here in Butte County. She's gone out of her way to support sparkling spaces, passing along my name and sending cleaning referrals my way, 2 jobs already, and even more through word of mouth. She's a powerhouse in real estate, and she bakes and sells pies on the side because, of course, she does. She's a total community connector, and I'm so grateful for her generosity and sparkle. If you're looking for a realtor who truly cares and supports local families, follow her at Moni Hosier _realtor for real estate magic and at Moni's _pies for sweet baked joy, or reach out to Parkway Real Estate Company. Thank you for being here with me today, and if this episode cracked something open or made you feel seen, send it to a friend, leave a review, or come hang out on the Patreon for bonus content and some fun neurodivergent rants. Our nervous system deserves peace. Your kids do too. Let's keep building a world that actually works for us. See you next week right here on the NeuroSpicy Mom Pod. Stay spicy, stay soft, and stay sovereign. Ta-ta!